So yeah, welcome everybody. So I'm so happy to see you all here and everybody online too. Hello. I'll just say a couple of words as the representative of Elgin first, and then I'll give the floor to Magnus and people. So I'm Suvi Kiviniemi. I use they them pronouns. I run the Elgin, and what is Elgin? Well, it's a peer support and mentoring network for game companies in Finland, and also runs an incubation track for like more hands-on support for selected companies. I won't talk too much about that, but you can see more on elgin.fi. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on that email that's on the screen, or you can always find me on LinkedIn too. So Suvi Kiviniemi. Elgin is a part of the Turbini Campus Incubation Program of Metropolia University of Applied Sciences, and it's also supported by the city of Helsinki. So thank you for my teammates and city for all the support we get from them. Some really brief practical information. The bathrooms, if you need them, they are right outside the door, and you need the toilet code, which is right next to the door. They are all unisex and with stalls, so you don't need to worry about that. There's still some snacks, I think, on the side desk there, so you can get more whenever you want. We are recording this, and this will be on YouTube. The camera is pointed here, so the audience won't be visible in the recording, but if you ask questions, your questions will be in the recording. But asking questions is highly encouraged. You should use the expertise of the people here and ask questions whenever you have any. For the questions, if you are offline and want to ask a question, just raise your hand or something and we'll bring you a microphone so the stream hears you too. That's why we need the microphones. And the online people, there is a QA, which you can use for questions for like the speakers. If you have questions about like the stream isn't working or something like that, then you should use the chat. There's a person, Max, watching the chat and the QA all the time, so just ping him. And I think that's pretty much what I needed to say, so I'll just give the floor to Joeli now, right? Yes, thank you everybody and welcome.
Hello, all you wonderful people. My name is Joeli Niva. Maybe you know me from the last time. Maybe this is the first time we meet. So glad that you're here and everyone online. Today's agenda, we have a 2-hour event. So there will be 2 presentations, one from my colleague Maher and one from me. And then we have a short break. And after that, we're going to have an excellent panel coming up. So please welcome Maher.
Thank you, Suvi. Thank you, Joeli. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's wonderful to see you all here, and hi to the online people. I hope that we get to interact even while being online. So for today's presentation, we are going to, in the following few minutes, I'm going to talk about the essentials of intellectual property rights. Is the pointer working? Okay, wonderful. So by the end, sorry? All right. All right. So basically, I will be talking about intellectual property rights. And before I start, I would like to see some reaction from your side. How familiar are you with the concepts of intellectual property rights? Okay. How many of you know the different types of intellectual property rights? Okay, very good. At least we have something. And how many of you are familiar with the protection that it provides throughout different means? Excellent. And then most importantly, as a lawyer, how many of you are familiar with what it takes to draft a contract or IPR clause when you need some? All right, excellent. We have some participants. Basically, these questions are not arbitrary, but I just want to know on how to focus on the issues and how to tailor the information that I present today. Yueli, please keep track on time. All right. My name is Maher Kadur. I work with Magnusson. I'm a lawyer. I work mostly with businesses, from startups up to big companies. We take care of setting up businesses in Finland or wherever you want, as well as financing the companies if you have financing round or something. So we take care of that. All right. We go directly. Where's the pointer? Okay. So for the agenda, to start with, we will introduce the intellectual property rights and talk about them a little bit. And then we talk about how they are created, and then how they are registered, and then give a bit of tips regarding the IPR strategy for game startup. And last but not least, we talk about contracts and intellectual property rights clauses in contracts. So intellectual property rights, basically, they are the ownership rights that they stem from an idea that a human being has. What does that mean? That means it's a protection system for the creation, for all of the ideas that you come up with, that they are original, new, and perhaps unknown to the public. So they are really the legal safeguards for the human creation in terms of ideas. There are 4 types of intellectual property rights, if we talk about the most important parts of it. So they are patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. For patents, they generally protect new inventions or original ideas that you bring to the market. So for the gaming world, these could be innovative gameplay mechanics that you bring to the market, or new hardware designs that enhance, for example, gameplay experience. For trademarks, they are more about branding. Think about iconic logo, or title of your game, or a slogan of your company that is so catchy and so important for your business to be recognized and differentiate your product from other competitors. So the trademarks comes in. And then for copyright, this is especially important for gaming industry. Why so? Because it protects all of the new artworks, from music to storyline to characters to musical composition, everything that human mind can create as artwork, and it's protected by the copyright and the protection that comes with it. For trade secrets, these are more discreet but equally important. Why so? Because the confidential information that your company has gives you a competitive edge. So basically, you are dealing with information that is not available to the others. And perhaps if disclosed, intentionally or unintentionally, it could lead to the others exploiting it without being aware of the protection that you need to take care of. So why are the intellectual property rights so important for the gaming industry specifically? Of course, they are important for other industries, but as we are focusing on the gaming industries today, we are focusing on this aspect. The intellectual property rights, basically, they are not just legalities, but they give you really a powerful incentive. How so? Through the ownership that you gain once you have created the intellectual property rights, you gain a protection, preventing others from using it. Of course, it has to be registered, and once you gain the protection, then you have the utmost protection that would not allow others to use. Think about it this way. You put countless hours of hard work, passion, resources, and perhaps, it's like also financial resources, and someone comes and replicate the creation that you have. How would that feel? Of course, it hurts, and it hurts financially and emotionally as well. But with the IPR system, with the intellectual property rights, the protection that it brings, these are protected for you, preventing others from using what you have created. And also, the protection is also important on the economic level, because through the protection, it means that no one else can use it without your permission. So you are gaining exclusivity, right? This exclusivity is very important, because through that, you can stop anyone from using your creations. That helps you on the long run to know how you want to exploit the intellectual property rights that you have. For example, through the exclusivity, you can sell your intellectual property rights, you can license it to others, or you can just utilize it the way you want. So all of that is something unique to the protection that the intellectual property rights brings. Then we talk about how these are created, how these rights are created. There are a bit of differentiations between patents, trademarks, and copyrights. For patents and trademarks, they have to be registered, simply. They have to be registered with the authorities. Of course, if not registered and your ideas can be copied later on, you can try to prove your priority in terms of using it. But that might be very difficult to prove. But for the copyright, this is slightly different. It operates differently, because the moment you create something new, you get the protection throughout the life of the creation. And the creation of IPRs is particularly important in the context of startups, as they, as your success increases, the risk of others trying to replicate your work also increases. So you have to stop that and be able to enjoy the creation that you have. One extremely important point as well is that the IPR portfolio works like a certificate for you before the funders. It's like if you want to get funding with the IPR portfolio, it becomes easier, because investors, they are interested in the intellectual property rights and the protection that brings in. So it shows your potential to the investors. So this package that you create along the way is very important to be well maintained. For the registration as well, there are different systems. If we are talking about worldwide, there is a system for how to register your trademark or your patent. For the trademark, there is a great system which called Madrid system. It includes 130 countries. Through one application, you can register in as many countries as you want. Basically, for example, if your startup is focusing on Finland and Sweden and China in the beginning, for example, you can register for these 3 countries, and as long as your business progresses, you can add additional countries. So it's kind of protection available for you in the future. For the patents, it works the same way. You file one application through the Patent Cooperation Treaty, and you get the protection throughout the world. I'm not going to go into very much details, because there are, the idea to give you how the basics of it. For Europe, this is also very unique. We have the European Union Intellectual Property Office. Basically, if you file in one country, you get protection in all of the European Union. So that is easy. Of course, you can add to the general protection that you get throughout the EU by registering your trademark in a specific country as well. For patents, same. There is kind of a one-stop shop for protection that's called the unitary patent system. Also what comes with it for the patents is that there is a specific court which is called the Unified Patent Court. Through the court, you are basically well protected in case of any infringement to your patent. In Finland, as we are here today, so it's very easy, and I think it's quite familiar to you. If you have a patent or a trademark, you can file it in the Finnish Patent and Registration Office, what's known as PRH. All right. For copyright, as I said, there are local laws in each of the country that protects the creation of copyright. Basically, the system works if litigation is based on, the litigation works on the country where the creator is residing or nationality. So the system also protects, even if, for example, we are in Finland and someone infringing your copyright in United Arab Emirates. You can be treated in the United Arab Emirates as a national for that country for protection of your copyright. So they will prevent the one who's infringing your copyright from doing so. Moving further, talking about IPR strategy for game startups, and I have my message here is very simple. There are 4 key points for a basic strategy. Of course, strategy can be very sophisticated and more detailed, but what I would like to highlight here for a startup, gaming startup, is that first, you have valuable information, confidential information. So by having that protected, you are protected. Basically, when you are dealing with others, and especially when you are disclosing information, it's very important that you put a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement in place. And please, if you are copying something from the internet, it does not all the time work, because what you have might not match what you copied online. It's very easy to copy. And we were talking about copyright, right? So it's important to tailor your non-disclosure agreements to the information that you have. We have to think of what kind of information we are disclosing, to whom, and what obligations we want to put on the party that is getting the information. Do they have the right to disclose it to other parties or not? For how long can they use it, and for what they can use it? So these are just basic ideas regarding non-disclosure agreements, which is very important. The second one is, as we are talking about confidential information and marketing. As a startup, we are very eager to go to the market and tell, hey, I have a great idea. I want to share the information with you. But hey, hold on. Disclosing too much prematurely might be against you. Before disclosing the information and for a marketing purpose, whether to an investor or a partner or whomever, it's important to make a balance between what kind of information for the marketing to get the others attracted and for your own protection. So these are to be balanced. And the third one is the documentation of your IPR. It's very important even before registration. For example, if you have employees or partners who are creating something for you, it's important to document it and date it to create kind of a record for yourself to prove in the future in case of something happens. And the last but not least is to file for the application. Basically, it's like that's your utmost protection. When you have the application and you get the registration, so you are set. So 4 things: NDA, balance between marketing and disclosing information, documenting your IPR, and then registration. Now we move a bit to a bit juicy part, for me at least. So talking about contracts and IPR clauses. There is no one simple probably message that I would like to say, because there is no one clause that fits every contract. We have millions of contracts that might include intellectual property rights clause, but it's almost certain that in doing business, you will deal with partners, with investors, with artists, with consultants, with employees, with different type of, people. For every single agreement, you have to think in the sense that what is the relationship first? Who is that person, the counterparty that I'm dealing with? Is that a partner, an employee? So am I getting something or am I delivering something? So, and from that point of view, we can tailor the IPR clause. And very important to say, for example, if we are dealing with a consultant, the consultant normally thinks that they own the right, but as we are paying for the service, then we want to have the right. After something being created, we want to have the right, so we won't leave what's being created and paid for the consultant, right? If you get the template of the agreement from the consultant, it's highly likely that this is the default case. And then in your journey, probably you already have, or you will have, employees and CEO and CTO or whatever in your company. So the default status for employees is that the local legislations contain some rules about how to deal with the IPR that is being created by the employees. But it's very important to include also in the contracts what the employee is to deliver and who owns what, and at what time you gain the ownership of it. That is important. I touch base this one. Okay, and for publishing agreements, for example, you have something being created, you are ready to face the market, and you need a publisher, right? So for the publisher, it's very important because this is a very practical step in order to face the world. You need someone who has the credibility to take your business to shine and flourish. First, you have to see the credibility of that publisher, and then to see, this is a very practical small tip, to see if that person has the right to sign the agreement. And then by that, we need to understand and see if we are, and this is a strategic point, are we licensing our intellectual property rights to the publisher, or are we assigning it? Because when we are assigning the IPR rights, it means that we are shifting the ownership from ourselves to the publisher. Whereas if we are licensing, it means that we are licensing it, giving right to use for a certain time against royalty or something. So these are the main quick points. And to conclude, for the IPR clauses, as I said, there is no one size that fits all, and the context play a crucial role. As I said, it's whether it's a consultant, employee, or artist or whatever. And then it's always important to align with the IPR strategy that you might have. And as I said, the IPR clause has to be tailored like a custom-made armor. Thank you for your listening.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'll continue from here. Maybe we can take the questions at the end of the poll. Yeah. Yeah. Just a quick introduction of myself. So Master of Laws and BBA, and I do gaming stuff. And last but not least, I really love strategy games. So if you need something to talk with me, it's always strategy games. And here's the agenda for my part. I have some special cases, and then for AI and copyright. Also, just briefly touching AI Act, since that not might be that much of interest for you. And finally, two very famous or interesting cases for this presentation. So let's start with the special cases. First, the open source. People often think that when something is open source, anyone can do anything that they want with it and own it. But that is not just the case, since the one creating it has still the ownership, but it's a license for free use. So the ownership still stays with the original creator, but then open source lets other use it and create upon it. And for the AI generated works, I'll come back to later. And third point is fair use and similar things in different jurisdictions. Copyright, as Mahar said, is for creative works, and to incentivize making those and keeping them protected. But it has its limits also, and fair use is one of them. For example, I can use copyrighted things for commenting or criticize or news or research. So it has its limits. But for commercial use, usually it depends the extent to which the material is can be applied commercially. So it's not like easy to say where it starts or when it stops the limit of fair use. So, and now comes the hotpot of AI, and now I just opened the can of worms, but there are so many questions. I just try to give you the foundation and make the thinking come from right angle for this topic. In EU law and also in Finnish law, a work is something that can be protected. And with AI, it's an interesting question. Does this fulfill the purpose of protection, or is the product of free and creative choice? And also, the AI assisted, AI generated is a distinction that should be thought of, since AI generated and then published and do whatever you want it, probably never can own it, but AI assisted, like take inspiration from it, or draw something, give it a mid-journey, to like iterate upon it, and then make your final product. Probably fills the work description. And reps and warranties is something lawyers love having in their contracts. It's like, I really promise you that this is as I say it is, and often there is some penalty if you don't fulfill those, of course. The ownership of the content the AI was trained upon. So, for example, the AI developer can say that this AI was trained upon data that I own, so I can give you the license to use it, and then your works may be like derivative works or have their own copyright, so they can determine that. But yeah, totally, there's still so many things uncertain in different jurisdictions. How will the courts in the end see this situation, and can you really rely on IPR protection in your strategy? Yeah, and further with the AI, so training, use, and output. So first with training, is the dataset free to use for training an AI model? Someone, or at least actually I know that some datasets are specifically made to use to be used for this purpose, and then there's probably no problem to use it. Is there something IP protected? You probably remember some cases where those watermark-like things would appear on the outputs since it was trained with pictures that had those watermarks. And also large versus small. So of course you would like to have a lot of training and testing data to determine that the AI works for the purpose it's intended for, but then the risk gets bigger and bigger that you infringe someone's copyright with the training process. And then for use, that is probably like the most, the thing you use most, these three, but what can the AI model be used for? Probably in the end user license agreement or terms of service says it cannot be used for anything illegal, or maybe like this is not legal advice, like ChatGPT has this banner that says that this is not legal advice, please consult your lawyer. And then also with use, there are data privacy concerns, since if you put some personal information with a prompt, and then the AI uses that prompt data to train it further, and that might be a problem. And then finally, when you have the output, who owns the output? Who has the right to determine what is used for? And there are no clear answers for this, but most definitely, if you train the whole model yourself and creative choices for that, and then use it with this, and then output this, maybe under copyright. So it determined under the work definition. Or can someone else use it as well? Like you make a game with graphics that you take straight out of Midjourney, and then the game starts selling and booming. Some other company around, like maybe not say China, but maybe China, uses that and creates a copy from it. Can you say to them that you cannot use it? No, because you didn't actually own it in yourself in the first place. So maybe it can be used, but you not have the only right to use it. So anyone else can use it well. And also I talked about those derivative works earlier. And now this has to be the quickest slide. AI Act to mitigate risks and to increase transparency. But what is of interest for game companies, I think, is that the use of AI needs to be stated. And also the summaries of copyrighted data used for training, I don't actually see how some companies can comply with this. They already have some AI generated stuff in the games, and they have no idea what was used to train that, and how can they disclose that? Let's see, AI Act is still in the making, but in the final phases. So it's not in place yet. Yeah, case valve. Yeah, and this is the game company Valve, of course, but it has a weird relationship with AI. Affirmative confirmation of rights ownership is what they demand. They demand that you only use models that you have rights for the training data. And if not, you cannot use any AI in your game development. And in the end, what is the situation this leads to? And probably you saw that as well, but some games have been taken down because of this already. and there has been discussion about their policy going forward. And they're about source code and copyright. Some source code can be copyrighted, and I was just thinking that maybe if you use ChatGPT or any like simple most commonly used AIs to make code, how will that work with this policy? I don't know. It seems like very silly stance for me. And why this matters? As you probably know, Steam is the biggest video game distribution platform with something like 75% market share, and they can gatekeep whatever they want. They can make the policy on what are the frames for game development going forward. And yeah, onto other favorite, Nintendo. They are very known for their stance on IPR strategy. There are some like clear cases like this ROM universe piracy. ROM universe provided ROMs for Nintendo games. Of course, that's not okay. Then it goes on to these DMCAs. So Nintendo owns the content, and they say content creator that you cannot use this, and even small things under huge amounts of content can result in a DMCA, and then it can go all the way to a strategy guide that is 25-year-old. Nobody has knowledge of it, and then someone out of curiosity founds it and scans it and puts it on the internet for others to see that it has some very interesting strategies for this game that is a speedrunning classic. And then, of course, Nintendo said that is not okay. And where does this all come from? Why have they taken this stance? Many companies have a stance so that they collaborate with the content creators and streamers and fans to like balance between protecting and also letting other people iterate on their IPRs, but not in a way that would like hurt their image. And my best guess, it all started with this Universal City Studios versus Nintendo that is all the way from 1983, trademark infringement. And do you know how Kirby is related? No. Kirby, actually John Kirby, is an IP litigator of Nintendo that won this case. In this case, Universal had King Kong and Nintendo had Donkey Kong. And Universal thought that this infringes their trademark. And eventually, Nintendo was a lot smaller firm back then, and there was like no way they thought that this is lost, but they tried anyway, and they ended up winning the case. And some think that this is one of the first cases where Nintendo started developing this strategy. And also one of the things is that back then Nintendo had people that were not lawyers leading the firm, so they couldn't evaluate the risks with IPR protection or not protecting it, what it would really what it would make them look like. But in the end, in the future, maybe they will become a bit less strict. But yeah, Nintendo has 10 to 20 billion worth of IPR. They like by a mile lead anyone on the market. They have Pokemon, that is the largest one. And what they fear even now, but especially back in 90s, when the Nintendo home entertainment system came and everyone's mom was saying that is a Nintendo, and when PlayStation came, that was Nintendo, Xbox was Nintendo, and Nintendo started becoming a common household name, so that every game console was Nintendo and every handheld console was Game Boy, and there were so many examples. But eventually Nintendo was afraid that all of this would result in genocide in a situation where their name is not distinctive anymore, and they would lose the copyright for it because of that. And that was one of the main reasons they have this stance. Yeah, thank you all for listening. Do you have any questions? You can ask now, you can ask later, we can discuss. Okay. Anyone on the online? No.
No, there's no online questions, it seems, but I think I had a question for the previous speaker. There's one. Okay, right, sorry, I didn't notice you.
Hi. Just a quick question regarding the AI Act. It had the mention of that the content, it needs to be disclosed that the content has been generated by AI. Now, a lot of the content for the past 5 to 10 years has been in some way developed using machine learning. So what would this apply to? Is it something that is a company would be making their games fully with generative AI, or does everybody need to disclose?
Yeah, I guess the idea behind it was that since the AI Act relies on risk, high risk, medium risk, and low risk categories, they had in mind AI that would make people's data vulnerable, or that it will like people's data would be used for AI purposes, and that they would talk with an AI and whatnot. So I guess EU doesn't see it that way. They cannot really evaluate how that is going to result in. But yeah, it's going to be a problem since so many applications last 10 years have been with machine learning, and I don't actually know how the compliance is going to work out, if at all. They can probably try their best. Yeah. Case law will probably show us how it will be interpreted. Yeah.
Okay, any more audience questions? Or maybe I'll throw my question to the previous speaker. Last question. Okay, sorry, you were behind the thing, so I didn't see you. And
Thank you. Excellent presentation, by the way. I had a question about the Valve case you presented, because it is really hard to spot code or something, art or anything that is created by AI in this point. So I was thinking about, especially because there are many hobbyists who are doing games like me. So do you know any cases, have Valve presented any cases that they have banned games from the and how do they do that? Because it's big problem to spot a creative thing to be used in a game development.
Yeah, thank you for a question. Absolutely, they have banned a couple of games now, but more are coming probably, or at least I know a couple of high-profile cases. And how they know if something is AI generated, that is a tough question. And probably what I've thought about is that Valve has contract with the publisher, and in that contract, Valve probably asks them to give reps and warranties that, yeah, I totally own everything in this game, and if they don't, and then Valve can have some something to say about it. But yeah, it is totally fair point to ask how is Valve can going to implement this. How can they know what is generated with AI, what is not?
Thank you.
any more audience questions? Or yep, there's one.
I actually have a question for the first talk. I'm thinking in a startup situation, which is before company forming, before any money is involved or any really contracts even exist, what would be the steps to make sure that IPR is like will keep until the actual like full like company forming stage is reached. So you have people who basically only have verbal agreements with each other at this point. How would you proceed from there? Well, you don't have access to, for example, lawyer to make a contract or anything like that. How to like keep yourself protected until the place where you can actually do like proper stuff.
Thank you for your question. Yes, absolutely relevant and very important. I mean, it's like at this stage, as I understand, so you don't have the financial resources, you don't have the company set, you are just some individuals who are trying to cooperate to bring something alive, right? So in this case, I would, well, it's a bit tricky. I mean, it's like, but the most important thing is to put some sort of an agreement between you as individuals and to write down who is doing what and what is the purpose out of this. So in this kind of scenario, you probably, what you are doing, you trust the people that you are working with, but still verbal agreements are to be avoided. I mean, because at the end of the day, your creativity is at stake if you don't write down or document in a way how to be used and how to be generated. It's like, so it's important. If you don't want to use lawyers, then definitely write down and document what you are doing together with your trusted people. That is the most important thing. And yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like we all the time work in order to protect the infringement and everyone to get fair deal out of what they bring. So that is something that should be looked at carefully in this sense. Yes.
Thank you.
Have I answered your question? Okay, very good. Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, so there's one question in the Q&A panel, and it asks, how would you disclose the use of AI in your game, or should we try to steer clear of it?
Yeah, how would you? I think eventually, when the compliance period starts for the AI Act, how I see it, it's like one of those clickable buttons at the beginning when you download game, like privacy notice. You have to always click it. I accept, I consent, I see, yeah, agree. And then one of those would be, I hereby understand that this game was partly developed with using AI, and then you say, I understand, click yes, agree. And I see that might be the way, but I hope not, since we have so many boxes to click already before we can actually start the game.
Maybe it could be with all of the other text, hopefully. Was there any more questions? I don't see any. Okay, there's one.
As you mentioned, the IP, intellectual property, as the word property normally is attached to a value or valuations, right? As also you mentioned, it's important for a startup company to package or position the IP as part of this core value. So how do you measure the value of the current IP and the potential of that, so you can put right focus? Thank you.
Excellent question. And I would say this is the most difficult mission to evaluate or to put a value for what you create. But I think I cannot now think of one institution that could put a price for the creation. It's all about the market. It's the demand, and it's about the originality of your idea. So I would say, as a creator, I would know what I'm bringing to the market. Is it something that is making a revolution in the market, for example? And then if I am in that kind of a position, I'm the game player. I can set my rules. And only the sky is the limit. Of course, I mean, it's like that is not, there's no straightforward answer to that. But there are certain persons or certain experts that they know the market and they know what you are bringing to the market. So they can make an evaluation, an estimation of what that price could be. But it's not something that you can really, it's like for 100% sure value your creation. But of course, the goodwill that is coming with the IPR will be shown later on your balance sheet. So how much, it's like it will be evaluated in the sense of your balance sheet. So that is another aspect how you look at it. So is it okay? Answer? All right, thank you.
I just chime in a bit. Same problems you run into with any valuation for a company. Maybe like you can value it for a certain USD price, but who says that? Some expert, like Mahar said, some companies do that. And in the end, you cannot be sure. Like even the IPR portfolio of Nintendo is to be estimated. Smallest was like 10 billion and something like 500 billion something was largest. So the estimations vary so much since they have no idea. No one is going to sell rights for Pokemon, for example, like the actual rights, no license, but the actual rights. So, and I don't know if there's like market for that. But as you probably remember, like Star Wars was like 4 billion something. So from those sales, maybe they can draw an estimate about the valuation in that situation.
Wow, that was an excellent and really complicated question. Anything else? Yeah, one more.
To respond to this two great lectures, they gave us a lot of inspiration. So I have additional questions, if you don't mind. As we know, the blockchain or Web3 is becoming like a more and more popular and hot topics. It poses some opportunities for how to verify the right or trace the right originality of this content or rights, but also pose some challenges because it's decentralized and the regulation seems not very firmed or like have draw the common consensus. So I just want to understand from your perspective how this is going to, what kind of opportunities we should take for our game or for our current business.
Yeah, I'll just answer this one, and we have to move onto the panel so that we can take that as well. But what I think about blockchain is like the original idea of copyright is behind it. Since today we can copy files so easily or anything, it costs nothing. But for example, like Mona Lisa, there's only one, and we want to verify this. It's this one, and back then we were like saying this is this piece one of this work and piece two of this work, piece three of this work, and there were like you can count those. But today in the digital world, it's not possible, and I think for that reason has to be one of the reasons why art is going into the blockchain or was going. Like I don't think that hype. I think the hype is dying down slowly, but that is at least how I see it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Did that answer the question? Yep, cool. Thank you. So we'll move on to the panel next, right?
Yeah, sure. Short break here, but like 5 minutes, and we'll continue with the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so shall we continue? hate to break up the discussion, but so that our schedule is tight. Yeah, thank you, everyone on the line, everyone here coming back. Now we have a panel with lovely experts shedding some light for game graphics and graphical design. So who are you? Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Aki Raula. I'm a graphic designer, but also a game designer, UI UX designer. And the past year, I've been doing a lot of AI related stuff. So what you just talked was really close to what I'm doing right now. Well, technically, this is my 30th year in the industry, but 26th full time.
All right. Yes, I'm Michael Dawkins, co-founder, technical art director at Dino Games. We make mobile games mainly. And yeah, I started my stint approximately 8 years ago. And yeah, AI has been in the picture for the past year as well. So it was very interesting to hear more about it.
Yeah. So just want to know your background a bit. So how did you get first into graphical design, and why is it graphical design you feel so strongly about that you want to work with it?
Sure. So I started in a thing called the demo scene that was very popular in the Nordics. Probably first things were like 1988, 89, doing pixel art on a friend's Amiga, and then from there I met up with some friends that belonged to this famous group called the Future Crew, and I became a member. And at some point, this was 95, they founded a company called Remedy. So step by step, I moved. I stopped my studies, sorry, and went to work for Remedy.
Yeah, so how do I got into graphics? Basically, well, not that back in the day, but when Skyrim was released, I started modding that game like a lot. And not just to the point of breaking, but tweaking how the game actually works. And that really got me interested. Always been an avid gamer. And then in 2015, my girlfriend actually went like, well, you like to play these games so much, why don't you go and make them? And then I applied to a school. And why graphics? Well, yeah, I can draw, yeah, sure. Programming, not my thing that much, but like graphics have always intrigued me since, because you get to like create stuff, and creating stuff is very important to me. And in my past life, I well still do as a hobby, I make a lot of music. So that is also very creation heavy, of course. But then I found 3D graphics in the first year and kind of forsake everything and started to go towards it. And yeah, it was really fun because creating music and doing 3D, the software used for both things are quite complex. So I found like a lot of similarities. The only difference, of course, now I'm working with visuals instead of sound, and that's how it kind of started. Yeah.
And finally, for these like more personal questions, can you share a game or part of game that has like visuals that you still think about today that made a lasting impression on you?
Okay, I can go first again. While I've been gaming since I think 79 or something like that, it's a bit more recent game called Fez. It's a pixel art game in a way, but it's a pseudo 3D pixel art. It pays homage to Game Boy. There's a Game Boy Color or Game Boy Color, I mean palette space in or level in there, and just how they use the pixel, but still kind of 3D, and then the whole. I think the puzzles are kind of in a way part of visuals there as well, because once you complete something, you get a reward that is a visual thing. So yeah, I'd say Fez is something I think about every now and then, and I'm really disappointed that the guy said years back that there's not going to be Fez 2 because he was trolled too much.
A game that made an everlasting impact to me. I'd say Warcraft and World of Warcraft. I remember after installing a bunch of game on MS-DOS and then getting a newer computer and then playing the first Warcraft, I was a wee boy, but then playing the second one and the expansions, and then when Warcraft 3 was introduced, I was like, okay, there's something in this art style. And then the rabbit hole began when I started playing World of Warcraft. And they actually re-released the classic version from 2004 in 2019. And why did it make an impact for me is basically the graphics in World of Warcraft, they're kind of timeless. And they kind of, how would I say, they have endured the test of time. Let's say if we compare to any sort of, let's say, 5-year-old AAA game, even though you love the game, but you try to play it, you're like, what is going on with the graphics? So in that regard, World of Warcraft has like somehow managed to create a very timeless style. And that's very intriguing to me. Mainly for the reason that like the graphics there are rather simple, but the use of shape language, form, and simple textures really like sell it to me. Yeah.
And if I may continue from there, because I was a big WoW gamer as well. And yeah, they have upgraded the graphics a few times, especially the characters, 5-6 years ago before the classic came out. But for me, it was the whole atmosphere. Like you could just ride or walk around and listen to the music, and it's nighttime, and the whole visual, audio, the whole experience of WoW was like. Well, I had a friend that played on the first year the game came out, 120 days. So that's 8 hours per day playing it. So, whereas I had like 25 or something like that. So, but yeah.
I dare not to say how many hours I've spent with that game. Closer to maybe 12,000 hours, still ticking.
But yeah, it was 120 in 1 year. So.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's I don't actually think about graphics that much. I'm audio guy myself. I like making audio and pay attention to it more. But well, certainly has a homey feeling, I think, to it that no other game has ever after it's created. Like I don't actually know what it's about. It has to be the art style, of course, the audio, and the whole package, I think. Yeah. So when you start making a new game, what are the initial steps you take to ensure the visual direction aligns with the game's concept? Like when talks are ready, like we're going to make this style, this kind of game, and the core gameplay loop is like this. How do you approach creating any visuals after that?
Well, we had a small discussion before this talk, and I mentioned that my answer wouldn't be different 2 years ago. But now, along with AI, it's completely different. I've done in the past 15 years quite a lot of pitches to both internally, but a lot of to external companies, publishers. And previously, you relied on a concept artist or many concept artists, and perhaps I'm more a graphic designer than and I can't really draw that much. So I just did the layouts, and concept artists provide me with the pictures. Now I can do the same with Midjourney in a day. Because when you're selling a concept, for example, you don't have to have any original art. It's all internal. It's just an image. You need to sell the idea of it. So in a concept phase or when you're selling the game, it's a bit different. Then once you have actually achieved funding or you have some money to begin with that you can actually make your game. I'd still start with Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, and then have a concept art that can draw over, add things that you want to be unique. Because after all, Midjourney creates really nice pictures. They're relatively low res. I mean, it's 1000 times 1000 pixel max. Stable Diffusion can create larger resolution, but still they're kind of the same in a way. It's really hard to make something exactly what you like. So it's good for making backgrounds, creating moods, palettes, compositions, and so forth. But so you still need the concept artist to kind of enhance that to your vision and not just the vision of the AI, it's a good springboard for sure.
Yeah, so we're making a new game. How do we keep the art consistent and what are the steps for it? Yeah, a lot of market research, but yeah, as you mentioned, AI comes into play. But yeah, basically just also kind of knowing your audience, but also knowing the genre that you're making the game, like what kind of games like it actually is. And then of course, like I would categorize using Midjourney. It is not that different than you going to Pinterest and making that mood board. It just makes very cool stuff very fast. And just a small anecdote, in the first 15 minutes of Midjourney, I generated more art than I have during these 8 years. So that's kind of a testament for it. It's something like 150 images in 15 minutes. But yeah, I would study the genre that we're making and how to keep it consistent. Well, looking at the things that make the genre and also kind of the fantasy. What is the fantasy? What is the actual fantasy you want the player to have? And those would be the steps in approaching the art that we would be making. And yeah, Midjourney. What else? Fleeting thought.
Yeah. So the AI has shifted a lot, but how was it before that? Like, how would you manage the resources and not just time, but also other resources for a game, since the cycle seems to be a lot faster now, of course, with AI. So what's the difference, like resource-wise today?
Well, the biggest difference is, like you said, time. So, which is often money. Back in the day, you'd have to wait for an artist to create something, let's say for a week or at least days, typically weeks, or if it's something bigger than months and so forth, something that can kind of roughly the same create now in minutes or seconds. There was a lot of kind of parallel things going on. You could design kind of in a vacuum. You could do art kind of in a vacuum because you had to do something for you to have something, anything. So nowadays you can do that a lot faster. The iteration loop is so much quicker than it used to be. But yeah, it just took time. That's the kind of simplest answer.
And back then compared to now, basically, okay, you still have to have some sort of eye when you're creating stuff, but basically now people can participate who necessarily aren't, full-on artists. They can participate in the process of the ideation and how to manage the time and the resources. Yeah, a lot more people can be useful in the process now. Prior to that, yeah, for example, 2 years ago, I couldn't do what I do now when it comes to the concepting phase of the whole like production, what you're going to make. What was the question again? Oh, okay. Resources and already.
Okay. Yeah, no worries, no worries. But what you said about having the eye for certain type of art, I've heard the statement that artists can make so much more use of the generative AI than people who are not familiar with creating art or do not have that kind of eye. Not like in artistic way eye, but have the experience to see what this would look like with that. So that artists get more out of generative AI than non-artist. What do you think about this statement?
Yeah, a lot of fear mongering, in my opinion. Like, okay, artists are going to be replaced by AI and all this, in my opinion, kind of nonsense. For example, when we transitioned into digital art, for example, more classical artists would be like, okay, like it's going to be a dying thing. People still paint, people still do the traditional stuff. And kind of answer that original question, yeah, of course, like when working with AI, okay, people who are not artists, they can make amazing looking stuff. But then think about this, well, if you have the skill set, you have the eye, you know about color theory, you know what you kind of want, and a little bit of prompt engineering on the side. Imagine what you can achieve on top of that. So it's kind of like, yeah, it levels the playing field, but at the same time, you're still a little bit maybe forward, pushing the boundaries of it, especially if you take, Stable Diffusion, for example. That's a very, you can do pretty much anything with it, train your own models. So yeah, we are not going to be out of work just because the AI is around the corner. And in my opinion, adapting to it is the greatest thing. Of course, people don't like change. For example, for my DJing times, people still play vinyl. I like controllers, and there's this kind of elitism like revolving around that. But yeah, kind of adopting and embracing our robot overlords is the way to go.
So what was the question again? Or follow-up?
Do artists get more out of generative AI?
Well, you kind of answered that. Yes, they do. But I think that the common man or common person can also get. They get in a way a lot more because they didn't get anything before. The only way to get anything was Google image search or Pinterest or whatnot, and there to get anything like cohesion or anything like that. That was from a you just take a look at other people's Pinterest boards. You didn't necessarily have couldn't generate or create one that would be somehow uniform, or you get the kind of specific images you'd want to be there. Now it's easier for the common person to get that, but yes, the artists will get even more. I've spent the past basically the past week doing just style exploration for a new project, just Mid-Journey, both kind of like the rendering quality and palettes and composition, or even things like architecture and so forth. Just the feel of the game or project from multiple different angles. And like you said, I couldn't have done that this quickly before. And I think since I have some kind of clue on what I want to have as an end result, so I can generate a lot of stuff. Sure, I generate 300 pictures, probably generate a lot more, but only selected those. And then I'll go through those once again, and then we'll go through the kind of that subset of things with our team and see what's the actual direction. I'm just doing the very, in a way, holistic exploration of it.
Yeah, and to add to that, something's better than nothing that layman can get. But I don't know if other composers have the same as I do, but I love seeing something, then start composing. For example, for some game jam games, when the schedule is so tight, everyone has to start at the first hour. We think of the concept, and then when everything's ready, we have to start immediately to work on it. And I cannot wait for some graphical design person to give some frame of what this game is going to look like, maybe, or something. I have to like blindly do that composing work. But then I think with generative AI, the first concept can be agreed upon very, very early. So I have something to look at, and then I can, yeah, this could go like this, and the mood would be like this, and then I can start working. When you talk about the process of selecting those and iterating and further and using AI, are there do you like see some pitfalls that people who are not experienced with AI could fall into in this process?
Yeah,
Go
okay,
ahead.
definitely. Like even in our company, like I sometimes think people a little bit rely too much on AI, like kind of they like. It is not the silver bullet all the time. And for example, I would categorize, for example, I'm going to use Mid-Journey here as an example. I would categorize Mid-Journey to be the three-headed dog, Cerberus from Greek mythology. Yeah, so like basically, you can kind of get it to do what you want, but that like single pose or that like zooming out a little bit, that might sometimes prove to be very tricky. And often, well, not oftentimes, but then there are also times when just the old quick and dirty gets the job done. So like, don't maybe rely too much on it. at times when manual work can achieve the same result, maybe maybe quicker, because you can get into these how would I say, like prompt hells, so to speak. You start spiraling out of control. And for example, we use a lot of Midjourney in the early stages of like production, as you mentioned as well, to kind of get the idea to the thing that we're making. But yeah, don't rely too much on it. Also, do something yourself.
And actually, just I forgot my original thought, but I'll continue on this. While Midjourney, like I said, it's good for having loads of different kind of things really quickly, but you can't really control it. I mean, even if you can give it images and okay, I want my end result to look kind of like this, but it's gonna be at least 50% off. So I've tried that like in a way, like okay, we have these images created already. Can we just generate more using Midjourney? No, you really can't. It's gonna veer off really quickly. Well, the first image will be already off by quite a lot. So in comes Stable Diffusion, and there's a lot of plugins for it. One is called ControlNet, where you can, well, there's for example modules in there that you can from a single image you can generate its depth. So you have a depth map of the image, so you can kind of generate 3D out of that. You can generate contours, so you can use whatever data you have. Let's say you take photos of people. You want, okay, we're doing a cutscene that's just images. You take photos of yourself or coworkers and whatnot, and just use that depth and contour data, and then generate something on top. Like it's going to be an anime character. And once you have a look that you're happy with, you can take that seed and then generate more using that seed, which in a way guarantees that the looks will stay the same no matter what prompt you put in. So this is something Midjourney cannot do. And well, Stable Diffusion, you have different kind of pose plugins that you can actually, well, you can both read a pose of a person from an image, or you can have a 3D model or this kind of skeleton they can pose to whatever, and then use that as your kind of part of the prompt. And that's very useful if you want to do, in a way, like animatics, something like that, like stop motion-y things. And this is definitely something that Midjourney can't do. So, and there's other examples, but yeah, I think like if you want to go further than Midjourney, then go into the depths of installing Python and whatnot, CUDA on your computer, and go with Stable Diffusion. It's more technical for sure.
I could a little bit continue on that, like, you know, as I mentioned as well, we utilized like the Adobe Photoshop's like generative fill, because not always the image from Midjourney is perfect. You have to do some aftertouches to it. Almost 99% of the time you have to like a little bit touch up the image. And the generative fill, even though the quality of it isn't that good, but you can easily generate backgrounds or extend the image. And then if you're good with selection in Photoshop, you can do magic with it. For example, a character, you would like to have a crucifix on the character for some reason, or a pouch, or a quiver. If you're good with the selection tools, you can just like select that area and then just start prompting into that. And what it tries to do is it tries to mimic the style of the overall image there, and try to best of its ability, recreate that like in its image. So Midjourney plus generative fill is quite nice. And then there's this new plugin I haven't yet tried it, called Alpaca. It's a Photoshop plugin, and since Midjourney is kind of still missing the in painting, meaning selection of areas within the picture and then prompting into that, these two tools try to alleviate that, to have more control over it. And yeah, just an anecdote.
Yeah, actually, Stable Diffusion has in painting as well. And I think Midjourney, well, there was a post last week, I think, from the maker that they either release it in kind of 5.5, because 6 is kind of long way still, like months or end of the year, whatnot. So they'll likely release a 5.5 at some point, like that has some of these features people have been looking for. So
yeah. Anything else you want to add onto this topic? Yeah. Okay. So let's imagine. Not actually imagine. We have a lot of people early in their career here, and students. And how do you actually start your journey? How do you get good with these kind of tools, not just AI, but actually how to make graphics and work in team? Do you just fiddle around with with like Midjourney and try to Google things, and how do you do this, how do you do that, and then just figure it out, or how should they approach this?
Generally, like just graphics in general, yeah, you're probably going to school, or if your hobby is like kind of pick your thing that you kind of want to learn things about, and then just boldly go towards it, and kind of really going out of your comfort zone. And yeah, we all have imposter syndrome. Like at some point, like maybe I can't do this, and maybe I'm not good, good enough. In my opinion, just like blindly just going and trying, and seeing what the big scary software does gets you there. And then how would I say, with AI, yeah, the same kind of applies. Like reading helps a lot. For example, I have somehow managed to enslave my TikTok algorithm to give me a lot of AI related like prompting stuff. Yeah, being adamant on learning things, and also yeah, they have a really good like insert any AI. The community gives a lot back, and you can even, like, for example, in some TikTok videos, you can ask the AI artist, hey, how did you get this prompt, and their most likely answer. And yeah, being bold and have courage to go where you haven't gone before.
And you actually, to add to the Midjourney part, well, you still need to use Midjourney in their Discord server or your own, but still kind of. So most people will start with the free version, which means there's hundreds of channels, Midjourney channels, and there are channels where people will help you. And of course, there are a lot of channels where they have example images and the prompts, so you can see what you get from different kind of prompts. And it's actually surprising regarding, or there's kind of not an analogy, but an example. Like some of the like coolest looking images have impossible prompts, like 100 words or something. Like it doesn't like make sense. Well, typically I think I'll use max 10 words and something like that. I've noticed like I can add, and then it doesn't really do anything. Then remove, and then probably, okay, 7 words give you better results than those 15 or 20 words. And of course, there are different ways of separating or emphasizing different parts of the prompt and so forth. What were we talking about?
Like aspiring new artist. How
yeah. So it's still kind of like you said. I'm a very, I wouldn't call it myself even average Blender user. I use it like, I don't know, five times a year. Whenever there's a kind of need for any 3D rendering, I can render stuff. I like just the image quality and so forth. I don't really model much there, just basics, very, very basics. I do materials because the material system is kind of nice in Blender and so forth. You can do, some people do the whole movie inside Blender. They do cutting and audio and everything inside, and a lot more. I have a friend that does all of their presentations in Blender, like PowerPoint stuff, but that's all done in Blender. I'm not sure why, but you can do that. So it's really, if you have a passion for anything, basically most people have some passion, then just let's go towards that. And something I wouldn't have done, let's say 5-6 years ago, but I do nowadays, just YouTube everything. If you try to Google something, you get kind of lackluster results, or there might be one YouTube link, and there's, yeah, just do the same in YouTube. You'll have hundreds and hundreds of very basic tutorial, how to do a screw in Blender or whatnot, like very, very basic stuff, and just do the tutorial. So the typical Blender thing is you have to start with the donut. Whatever kind of donut, it's, most people do this kind of
about that was, yeah,
instance donuts, but that's kind of the first thing you do in Blender, and just that's the practice. Like you do a simple thing first, you can then actually, let's say like a year after, you do the donut again, and then it's gonna look so much better and different if you just, let's say, even use it once a week or a few times a week. It's just, you need time.
Yeah, so it depends what you're doing, where is the valuable information at. Since for example, some legal stuff that is like common knowledge for lawyers, when you try to Google it, no luck. ChatGPT, no luck. YouTube, absolute no luck. Or maybe if you know the right channel or something. But yeah, I have encountered that as well. But it's interesting to hear that you prefer shorter prompts, since I think during the past year I've become quite good at writing ChatGPT prompts, and it's also short. The longer the prompt, usually it's almost always better result. Like I even describe the background as well as I can, what is happening, where I'm coming from, what do I want, and then even then just asking the question. So the more my thinking goes like, the more information I input, the better output will be. But it seems that it varies between AIs.
Yeah, for ChatGPT, I actually quite often start with very short prompt, and then I start giving more info. Like I said, it's a because typically you get very generic answer from a short question. So you kind of, well, you both want to give the AI more information, and then you want to veer it to one direction or another. And one thing I've been using quite a lot in the past weeks is just do stuff like, okay, make it sound more like Hemingway, and then you'll have game design, for example, that's very kind of strict and or like army like. It's fun. It's not very useful at times, and you need to make it a bit more soft and so forth, because ChatGPT generates very kind of common general feeling things. If you just put that into your, let's say, pitch document, people will notice it in ChatGPT. So you want to do a little bit of trickery there. And of course, I quite often just change the text manually that you want to do that, just to give your own flair. And sometimes ChatGPT can, in certain cases, can be a bit flamboyant. So you want to tone it down too. So
one ad for the aspiring artists: go to game jams. Those are perfect places to kind of test your skills. I've enjoyed my fair share of game jams, and they're good to test your skills and to learn new stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And those are like very welcoming as game industry in general is, so that you can, like, in a safe environment, try when there's nobody's money on the line and nobody's like pushing you to do certain things. But yeah, so that we have time for questions, we may just wrap it up. So we discussed that AI has totally shifted your work in a new direction, but the skill required to do it well is still there, and best ways to learn is just fiddle with it. No Google, but YouTube to find things, and then with Blender, but yeah, but find the sources, find some people to talk about it with. So it can be a mentor or a colleague or someone. And what do you think? How do you want to summarize this?
That was a good summary. Yeah, like I have nothing to add.
yeah, likewise.
Yeah, and finally to the audience for some questions. Do we have something from? Yeah. Just...
Yes, I have a question, and considering that I'm a lawyer, I'm not into graphics. I mean, I understand to a certain extent what you are talking about, but in terms of AI and graphics, you know, it's like, and the prompts that you feed in, you know, it's like to the AI program or whatever, I'm concerned about the data. How do you make sure that the data is not going to be used by others as well, or some sort of that? I mean, you know, it's like I'm concerned about the confidentiality of the information, because probably you are working on a project that is not yet in the market. So the program might learn something that is not yet out in the market. How do you consider that when making graphics, or, you know, the work? Yeah.
Well, like I said, I've mostly been using Midjourney for content documents or pitch documents, which are never gonna see the day of light. Public doesn't get their hands on those. So then we have Stable Diffusion, which runs locally. It's on your own machine. So that's a kind of good thing. It won't leak anywhere. So in Midjourney, I'm just doing more like generic stuff. I've tested singular images that has kind of copyright on our side, but only like singular. Whereas in Stable Diffusion, I don't have to worry about that. So since it runs locally, the data won't go anywhere. It's all going to be kind of safe. Of course, bigger companies, for example, don't have any real policy on this. Most have this, just don't use AI generated stuff. But since we're using it A for pitching, which isn't for the actual project, or B, we use Stable Diffusion, which is local and safe. So it's kind of like
Yeah, and
one eye blind.
And for us, yeah, AI is mainly like not for production level art that is going to be put out. It's mostly in the beginning stages of production, like pre-production. And then we oftentimes feed it our own stuff, like Midjourney. There is a stealth mode that it doesn't get out, but the AI might still learn. But like, even though we use AI, it does not, how would I say, exclude the, how would I say, tried and tested art content creation pipeline. We still have to do the same things we like would as artists for the stuff that actually goes into the game. So it's more of an ideation tool. And if somebody wants to, like my kind of stance on it, if somebody wants to steal a prompted image and make something of it, they still have to make the game. They still have to make the marketing for it. They still have to do all the actual heavy stuff that like revolves around publishing an actual game. So I'm not that worried about that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
No other questions? Anything online? No, nothing online either.
Am I hearing correctly that you feel fairly do you often use the AI to come up with art and then are fairly comfortable having an artist use that as inspiration for the final work and feel that protecting that using copyright is viable?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's still kind of early. A year ago, you didn't really have the same tools yet, but right now, if I go that way, well, it touches your talk earlier. Like, for example, what's like, how much do you have to, for example, change the picture for you to have the rights for it, or it not to have any rights if it's AI generated, and it Midjourney with kind of open platform. But I would still kind of make sure that there's enough of your original flair there, and like you said, AI is still more for the conception phase or for the kind of mundane things, and I see that's like in the future, you don't want to model hundreds of different kind of chairs for your game. The AI can create those. You want to concentrate on the interesting stuff, on the characters, on any set pieces in the game and so forth. AI can do all the like background work, which isn't that. It's useful for somebody that starts in the industry to get the ropes and do for modeling, for example, any basic art. So model chairs, model something like kind of in a way simple, but once they get their skills, then they don't need to model chairs. It's more for a practice. So I see that's going to be something what AI will do in the future. And you can already generate 3D from 2D images. Some of them are fairly okay, some of them not so much, and you need to clean them up. But let's say in a year, likely you don't even have to do the cleanup work for basic things.
I didn't have it.
Yeah, and just like in other areas where AI is used, still the expert has to do the the work that requires a lot of thinking, and then AI can do the legwork that is like behind for lawyers as well. And we have a lot of work that is similar, like every time, writing some things and proofreading and whatnot, and that can be done by AI very reliably. But they cannot, I think, I have license agreement, I need to favor this side, but not at the cost of that clause. And that is the part that the AI cannot still accomplish, but a bit to the other side. But my bottom line is that still AI is for that kind of work that is pattern heavy.
Anyone? Okay, this one.
So hi, I have a few comments maybe, but I have also, I'm a designer myself and a creative, and I've been also thinking about this AI a lot. And now, like you were saying, that Photoshop has an AI installed, and it actually labels it when it generates something that this has been created by AI. But the thing is that what I'm more concerned, and what is my question maybe also from the lawyers, is when we talk about copyrights, then if you put in data there, okay, you select the data that you're going to put in there, but the thing that it actually generates, for instance, if it's Midjourney, who owns the copyrights? Can you just start using that photo as a background image? Can you just start using that photo doing whatever? Does that, let's say, talk about like Midjourney, how much Midjourney owns that photo?
Yeah, and the short answer is that it's unclear. But at the moment it seems that at least Midjourney doesn't own it, and the one giving the prompt doesn't own it, and it seems that there is no owner for that. But the ownership status is important for training data. Still, if I like make a painting and upload a picture of that online, I have to be sure that nobody uses that for anything I don't allow, and that is the problem. Not the actual use of output of AI, but the training data is I think the problem with generative AI.
Yeah, because it's possible that Midjourney just says one day, oh, everything we generated with this AI is also, we have the legal copyrights to it, but everything that's been generated, and you're already creating a game, you're doing already something with it. Like I had a client who generated 4 logos and came back to me and said like, I really can't get the car right here. Can you do something? So yeah, you're correct. Like we are becoming like creative directors because they can't give the right commands to the AI to create the perfect image for them. So definitely you're correct in that sense. But then again, if they're planning to use the logo, for instance, on their products, and later on this same company says that owns the AI, says like everything that it's our asset, this AI is our asset that creates this stuff.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to terms of service that you probably have read. Yeah, I hope. Yeah, just like everyone else's, all those quickest accept of my life. But yeah, the problem is that people like AI users have to be very careful what they use, since the ownership status, they can, in terms of service, say that they reserve the right to claim outputs of this AI. In a contractual sense, that might be okay. In IPR sense, I don't think so. But in the contractual relationship between the AI developer and the AI user, that might be totally valid. So please read those terms of services and end user license agreements and whatnot.
Yes, because I have also one interesting, I don't remember what is this one AI that generates the picture of you. You can put like 5 pictures of yourself and it starts generating a picture of you. First, when this came out, I was thinking, wait a sec, it's a cool thing, a cool AI thing. But what if I put my picture in there and do I give a consent, or the AI learns my facial feature, and then in future somehow my face pops up in some advertisement, like somewhere in Mexico or somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah, and face is a special type of personal data, since in all jurisdictions that at least that I know of, or at least in the Western world, I say, you have ownership of your face, so that even if you if someone takes a picture of you, you can say anyone that you cannot use this in that context. For example, let's say Steve Jobs has someone has a poster with Steve Jobs' face, and that someone takes a picture of that poster. Steve Jobs could say that you cannot use this picture anywhere, since it's such a prominent feature, someone's face, as a personal data. So yeah, that is very problematic use of AI. And also AI Act has that what is it, biometric data and training of AI with that taken care of. So it's high risk AI.
But now if we go further from there, we talk about social media, or all our images are out there. Basically all social media companies have said you give your consent by uploading your photo, that we have the right to the photo, for instance. And then if we start looking at future mobile technology, how we log in with facial ID, all this stuff, my question is, where will we end up with AI later? If this is something I own, my face and my picture, then we're like really on the edge in a way.
Yeah, if someone knows, please tell me. I'm intrigued as well. Anything you want to add?
Like the gray area of AI is rather scary, and yeah, as you mentioned, like the logo case, like couldn't you kind of make derivatives of that logo, not use that logo per se, but kind of, what's it required to make a patent? Is it like 5 or 6 distinct changes, and they can be contours on the like corner, stuff like that. So it's kind of a gray area, and I'm really hoping that the bureaucracy doesn't get in the way of, like, being able to create stuff. But the copyright regarding big what do they call IPRs, yeah, it is problematic, and I don't really know how to avoid it instead of just using stuff that you put into the AI.
Yeah, well, I have 2 things to add to that. One is, of course, if you train your own data, you have your own images, whatnot, and use Stable Diffusion to train that and running locally, then it's kind of easy case that you own that. Then another thing is, like, the only thing I've used AI generated things in a final product is in a nonprofit. I do art direction for our local football club. So any stuff there, like I might have a football player in the background of an image from Midjourney. I don't really have to care because there's no money involved. So if I own the rights or not, it doesn't really matter. So that's where I used that for, like, logo case as well. Okay, we have a 35th anniversary. I used Midjourney to generate ideas for the logo. It's not good with any kind of text, but you can still get ideas for that. And then just take that idea and just Photoshop, generate it, so do manual labor.
Also, I would like to add something, if it's possible. You were asking about creativity, and what if somewhere else, all the prompts and everything you put in the AI, and it starts generating a similar photo for someone else, for instance, in a scene of a game or something. Before AI even existed, it's like the creative world is a kind of special type of world where actually all the ideas float in the air, and you just have to, you're like a medium that you have to bring it to life. And there are certain cases with business ideas, or creative ideas, or painters even. It can be 2 people on the other side of the globe, and they do exactly the same thing or very similar things. And yeah, it's possible. So even without the use of AI.
Yeah, and also that is the case with like old school copyrights, since of course two people can come individually up with the same idea, and their copyrights don't depend on each other. But how do you prove that? That is the different question, since copyright is created upon the creation. So maybe they can prove, like, I had this file on my computer on that day and that timestamp, and they had that. So maybe like that. But these are very rare cases. But yeah, it comes probably around with newer generation AI and IPR.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there any more audience questions? No? Anything online? No, nothing online. Okay. In that case, I think we could close the stream and we'll still have some food left. We can still do some eating and networking and hanging out. I'm not in a hurry to get out, so just chat with people, right? I don't mind. So let's do that. But before, thank you, our amazing panel. Thank you, everybody, for coming here. Thank you, audience. But let's give a round of applause to the panel.